Elon Musk will not be going to space anytime soon. Biden grounds Musk. Of all the things that men have dreamt, the thought of heading off into space to explore the great unknown, the final frontier, is at the top of that list. The belief that any one man or woman can change the face of the planet and create history has been at the forefront of the American idealistic dream. This dream has begun to be realized with Elon Musk and his SpaceX program, a very advanced, non-government owned, yet government-funded program to push the advancements of space travel for the everyday citizen. Not that Elon is in any way an everyday citizen. This dream has just had the proverbial anchor thrown down on it as the Biden administration creates their own new policy regarding space travel, and it is to have America remain grounded for the time being. A very big setback for Elon Musk and for America, leading the way for China to become number one in this new space race. This article we will be going over today is coming from the WashingtonTimes.com. Biden cancels Elon Musk's adventures in space. New president is making his own space policy increasingly clear. America will remain grounded. The United States is in a titanic struggle with the People's Republic of China for the dominance of space. Although the Americans have been to the moon and sent multiple advanced probes to the surface of Mars since the end of the Cold War, the U.S. space policy has languished in neutral. Due to this, new competitors, namely China, have arisen to challenge the dominance of the Americans in the ultimate strategic high ground of space. This little Star Wars reference possibly there. Who has the high ground? Well, it seems that China may in the future, in the very near future. China has grand ambitions for space. Not only does China plan on beating the Americans to the Martian surface by the end of the decade, but Beijing wants control of the vital orbits around the Earth. By controlling these orbits, China's military would enjoy significant advantages over the American military. Beyond that, China's plans of stripping the moon of its valuable resources. Now, this could be why Trump created the Space Force in the first place. There's probably other motives behind that, but I'm sure that controlling the satellites orbiting the planet was probably at the forefront of Trump's thought when creating the Space Force. Now, Biden has not canceled the Space Force. He did not try to reverse that, oddly enough, yet he's not exactly promoting the idea of us going to space either. So it's a weird dynamic there. The Americans, though, have always had a silver bullet in its competition with China for space dominance, a vibrant and innovative private sector, specifically the growing number of private space startups such as Elon Musk's SpaceX. Thanks to his reusable rocket design, Mr. Musk's company has already cut the launch costs by a staggering 40%. Quite incredible. Almost half. He's almost halfway to cutting the launch costs. SpaceX insists that it can cut those costs down further. What's more, SpaceX rockets are entirely indigenously produced. And as the ongoing race to Mars between the United States and China intensifies, Mr. Musk's new space reusable rocket Starship might be the vehicle that gets American astronauts to Mars before China. Certainly the Starship's reusable rocket is unproven in another America. This experimental craft would elicit wonder and its developments would be encouraged. The Trump administration exhorted SpaceX to vigorously move ahead with its Starship program. The United States, however, has a new president, and President Joe Biden is making his space policy increasingly clear that America, again, will remain grounded, a very large setback. On January 28th, SpaceX was set to put its Starship rocket through another test into the blue skies above Texas. The objective of the test was to get a massive rocket up to 12.5 kilometers, about 7 miles above the Earth, and then spin the rocket around so it can make a vertical landing. Sadly, the visionary goal of getting America Americans to Mars first came crashing down when the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, which under the Trump administration had allowed for SpaceX to conduct their important test flights, ordered Mr. Musk to cancel the Starship prototype tests. The FAA did not cite its reasoning behind ordering the cancellation of the launch. Many have speculated that the cancellation was brought about due to safety concerns. In December 2020, SpaceX did test the experimental rocket. The Starship prototype made it up to 41,000 feet. Once it reoriented itself in order to allow the rockets to land vertically, the Great Silver spaceship promptly did a belly flop and ended in a massive explosion, so there are safety concerns. Despite this, SpaceX learned many valuable lessons from this December failure that were applied to the Starship launched in January. In science, the only lasting failure occurs when you don't test your idea. It is likely that the FAA's decision to cancel the launch is in part of a wider Biden administration effort to undo the Trump administration's vibrant space policy. Why? Well, there's a lot of reasons that get into conspiratorial ground, so I don't want to cover them too deeply here, but well, let's say Joe has been very favorable towards China, and there could be a reason there. Plus, former President Trump's space vision was explicitly aimed at countering advances made by China in space, a space race. We wanted to be number one. That has always been America's goal. It is unlikely that Biden administration seeks to continue that policy as the Biden team attempts to stabilize deteriorating relations with Beijing over the next few years. Something that Trump was very opposed to, trying to get us out of our close tied relationship with China, make ourselves more independent, energy efficient, and number one in the space race. Concerns over Mr. Musk's Martian intentions is likely another factor of the FAA's cancellation of the Starship launch. Last year, Mr. Musk indicated that any future SpaceX Martian colony would not be, quote, ruled by Earth-based laws, end quote. The problem for Mr. Musk is that SpaceX has always been awarded lucrative contracts by the Earth-based U.S. government. If SpaceX were to create a colony on Mars because of the company's contractual relationship and funding with the U.S. government, Washington would very much look at that colony as an American endeavor. Lastly, Mr. Musk has been publicly supportive of the recent GameStonk controversy in the stock market, a group of anonymous individual investors on Reddit who basically tried to fight back against the manipulated stock market and bankrupt several investment firms. One of them, the Melvin Capital, they actually did force into bankruptcy. So that could be another reason why they're punishing him for backing something that is going against the federal banks. It is not only Mr. Musk who suffers from the FAA's cancellation of SpaceX flight. We, the American people, and the entire effort to beat China to Mars suffer. The Biden administration's decision to increase regulations on the private space launch service sector and slow down their operations, as evidenced by this recent Starship launch cancellation, will only help China in its ongoing mission to defeat America in the new space race. So this is a very large setback. It's very disappointing that this is the position that Joe wants to take with his policy regarding the space race. We wanted to be number one. With our former president, it was all about America first, not only here on the ground, but in space as well. And as, like I mentioned, the Space Force, whatever you want to believe that is, was created in an effort to get us into that number one position. Now, with the new president, we are taking a step back and allowing China to become the number one, at least in space. Hopefully, we will stay number one within our own country. That would be preferable to, I believe, the majority of us who live here in America. So this is a setback. It's unfortunate. Hopefully, this is not a long-lasting setback. We'll have to see where it goes. I know Elon will be fighting tooth and nail to get his SpaceX program back up and running and continue with his progress that he's made. It's incredible the kind of progress he's made in a very short amount of time, where we haven't been through NASA. We haven't been back to the moon since the early 70s. So it's been it doesn't make sense why they say the technology isn't there. They lost the technology from the first space missions, the first moon landings, yet Elon's been able to do incredible things in a very limited amount of time. So to hinder his ability to continue this is very, very upsetting indeed. So there it is, though. Tune in on Sunday nights at 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. We do our live show. We talk about the UFO phenomenon, the paranormal, biblical prophecy, strange mysteries, and hidden histories. We thank you for watching.